Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Reganelite, and I got a premiere video for you guys here on this Monday evening. That's the time this video is premiering for you guys. It's not a live stream, unfortunately, because I won't have time to do a live stream, unfortunately. This is being pre-recorded on Saturday the 16th of August, just for reference, in case anybody's wondering why some of these news stories are not a bit more up to date for you guys. So I've got 5 stories that I'm gonna go through with you guys, and plus I'm gonna throw a funny video at the end here. So I wanted to give you guys a chance, because I know that I don't like to skip Monday evenings. And I know a lot of you guys come together obviously in the chatting and whatnot, so I wanted to do a little something for you guys at least, and not just drop another video, because I could have recorded, I was going to do that, but instead I've decided I'm going to do a couple of stories, talk about them. Obviously I won't be able to read your live comments if you're going to be reading them live, but obviously if you leave comments after the video down in the description, I'll have a look at them whenever I get the chance. So this is Reganelite's Viewpoint, I would say, but it's just not a live stream, basically, for reference here. So I want to start with this story here from the BBC. Obviously the big story is what's been happening what happened in Alaska with the meeting between President Trump and Putin. So the headline here from the BBC is that the end of Ukraine war is closer than ever thanks to Trump, says Keir Starmer. Now, I don't think anything came out of the meeting. At the time of this recording, as you guys know, I don't know what the meeting between Zelensky and Trump is going to be like, so I want to put that caveat again in here before we talk about this as well. And there's also been speculation that wasn't even Putin that was at the summit. Many people have speculated that he's one of his stunt doubles, which I think is entirely possible as well. We don't know that for sure. We honestly don't know, but we all knew kind of going into it that we wasn't expecting too much to come out of it as well. So I wasn't expecting anything too much, but I just feels like two big balls basically bragging about how big their cojones are when actually they're actually quite tiny. And I generally feel that's how I feel that it is. Do I think there is an incentive for both Russia and for both Putin and Trump to end the war? Yeah, I do. But do I think it's in the beneficial in any way, shape or form for Ukraine, the ones who've been invaded, the ones who have suffered the most, the ones who have lost civilians' lives, lost their children, lost their lands as a result of this? No, they are the ones who have been the ones who have suffered the most in this. Now, it's going to be very fascinating to see what comes out of the meeting between Zelensky and Donald Trump and the repercussions of it. And I just my hope is that obviously that Europe stands firm with Zelensky no matter what happens. I'm worried about the meeting that Zelensky will have with Donald Trump and how it's going to go, because I'm worried about the influence that Putin or his stunt double, because that is that speculation has been going around, will have had influence, would have been on Trump, because when they arrived at the summit, you could see Trump was very, very happy, very gleeful, and even clapping, applauding Putin, the fact that this guy, invaded another country in its territory. But at the end of it, there was one or two photos where he wasn't that too keen on it either. So it's going to be very fascinating to say the least, you guys. So the US President Donald Trump's actions have brought the end of the war in Ukraine closer than ever before, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said. So his statement comes despite the fact that Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin failed to reach a deal on a ceasefire at the summit in Alaska on Friday. He also said that the path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and that the UK's unwavering support will continue for as long as it takes. The highly anticipated meeting between Trump and Putin has been pitched as an important step towards peace in Ukraine, but no concrete agreements were made, despite the former saying that great progress was made. Zelensky is due to fly to Washington DC on Monday to meet Trump, with the aim of paving the way for future talks. In the wake of the Archive Summit, Keir spent Saturday morning speaking to Western allies, and following the calls, he said in a statement, "I welcome the openness of the United States alongside Europe to provide robust security guarantees to Ukraine as part of any deal." President Trump's efforts have brought us closer than ever before to ending Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. His leadership in pursuit of an end to the killing should be commended, Keir has said. So until Putin stops this barbaric assault, that allies would be keep tightening the screws on his war machine with even more sanctions, he said. France later said Turkey would join President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in hosting Kiev allies in a video phone call the coalition winning on Sunday. That would have already happened by the time you see this. Downing Street source told the BBC that any peace deal needed security agreements, and US involvement was a key part of that. Following a call with Trump on Saturday, Zelensky called for lasting peace, not just another peace between Russia's invasion. And he stressed Kiev should be included in future discussions and said he's expecting Russia to increase pressure and strikes in the coming days to create more favourable circumstances for talks with global actors. Prior to the event, it was believed that Trump had hoped to secure a peace deal from the talks in Alaska, which was never going to happen in my view. Speaking to Fox News Radio on Thursday, Trump said that the meeting had a 25% chance of failure. Well, it failed. Despite walking away with no ceasefire and overall deal, Trump insists some great progress was made with many points agreed and very few remaining. Okay, I mean, like, let's just be real here. Like, Trump wants the same kind of power, the same kind of control on a country that Putin has with Russia. You know, he admires Putin. He's stated it numerous of times, and there's obviously that the talk, and people have made this, that there could be that he has blackmail on Trump, on the current US president as well. It's quite infuriating that the red carpet was rolled out to Vladimir Putin in the very fact of what has been done as well. I don't know if some people saw, but before the meeting as well, Hillary Clinton had tweeted that she would nominate Donald Trump for a Peace Prize if Trump was able to secure a deal with Putin. So that would have been funny if that would have happened. That's for sure. Now, are we close to a Ukraine war? I'm very skeptical of saying that, because I was kind of feeling that at when Trump became president, I really felt we were going to get close to that. I'm very skeptical to say that right now, because obviously things can change dramatically. My hope is that when I officially come back, that perhaps maybe there'll be something negotiated. There's obviously been discussions about, from Britain's perspective, that they're ready to put British soldiers on the border between the two if some kind of peace deal is negotiated, as to act as peacekeepers. That has been something that within a week of a deal being secured, the Defence Secretary John Henley has said from the United Kingdom's perspective on that. So that is ready to be done if need be. So Britain stands ready to play its part in doing so as well. I don't think that Europe will not allow Zelensky to be thrown out into the walls, but is Trump going to put Zelensky and Ukraine in an impossible situation? I'm worried that they might do that. I'm generally worried they might do that. I hope not. I really hope not. But we know that Vladimir Putin's a snake. You know, you just can't trust anything that comes out of his mouth. He's said things and he's lied about them in the past. He's annexed Crimea, which doesn't belong to him. He's annexed territory that doesn't belong. They've annexed so much territory that doesn't belong to them. They've killed civilians. We know they target civilians because of some of the attacks that they have done as well. They've kidnapped thousands and thousands of tens of thousands of Ukrainian children from their areas, and many of them have still not been returned. Only about 1,000 or 2,000 or so have been returned from Russia. There has been some successful prison swaps between the two sides, but that's about it. And Ukraine lost, obviously, the territory. They tried to sweep and take some territory from Russia to use as a broker deal, and that didn't work out in the end, because unfortunately using both Russian and North Korean soldiers, because you have to remember there are North Korean soldiers being used in this war as well as private Russian mercenaries. Private mercenaries are being used, hired in this war as well, to benefit Putin as well. They're paying out huge amounts of money for mercenaries to take part in this conflict. Experienced soldiers, experienced people who have been in gunfights and wars as well, because Russia's soldiers have been depleted, so they're relying on them as well. So I don't know if the war is still going to end. At the start of the year, I thought that it would. Everything could possibly change by the end of this week potentially. So my hope, I do want the bloodshed to stop more than anything. I want people to stop dying, but I just don't. My position is I just don't want Zelensky to give up territory. And I just don't think it would sit right with Ukraine if they were to allow the territory they've already lost to be annexed and become Russia. It's just not right for that to happen. It's just not. But unfortunately, we'll have to wait and see on that, guys. So the next one I've got for you guys is an explainer from The Guardian. So 4 ways the UK has tried to stop small boat channel crossings. From Rwanda to wave machines, successive governments have tried and failed to deter people crossing from France. So before we dive into this explainer here by Caroline Davis here, we have to understand that unless we set up safe and legal routes, we will always continue to have this issue when it comes to migration. Had this high level of let me start again. Not how can I put this? This level of illegal migration, if they want to call it that. I don't like using the word illegal. I need to find a new word. But there is no safe and legal routes for people to come to the UK. Unless you are from Ukraine, unless you are from Hong Kong, there are certain exemptions from certain Afghans, but the vast majority of people who want to come to the UK actually work and contribute. Unless you have the right documentation to work and whatnot, if you're coming, there's no safe and legal way to come to the UK. You just, there is none. So what do? They end up getting on boats trying to cross over because they have no other means of getting across. Like, what else are they supposed to do? And this is the argument that Zoe Gardner, the immigration expert, has been banging on about for years and years and years, and continuously people, the governments, Labour government as Conservative government, continue to ignore it. Not setting up something that would allow people to be able to claim to apply for an asylum application, and then their application would get accepted or rejected. We know that more than 10,000 have already been sent back to the UK under this Labour government. I think it's actually been more than that, 15,000. They have worked around the clock to send a lot of people who were stuck in the backlog, people who have been in the backlog for years and years and years in the migrant held up systems. That backlog has ever grown and expanded because of the Conservatives' refusal to actually pay the civil servants and get the civil servant staff to be able to clear the backlog, to actually deal with this actual situation. But the problem with all that is, as well good as it is that Labour, in my opinion, are doing a better job than the Conservatives when it comes to handling asylum seekers. What they're doing with regards to stopping the small boats and everything, none of it was going to work. None of it's going to work. None of it's going to make a difference. None of it is going to stop the gangs, because people will still come and people will still pay top pounds to come. They will pay for it one way or another. So again, until we have safe and legal routes, you will not stop the boats crossing in any way, shape or form. It doesn't even matter if even if they set up wave machines, even if they set up walls along the beach and coast, they will still find ways to come over. They will always try and find ways to come over. And that's where you have to create safe and legal routes, have it done properly, and then their application gets rejected, they get sent back. That's it. Too late, So that's the way it needs to be done, in my view. But unfortunately, we know that there's certain media outlets, certain newspapers, certain politicians and certain influencers are telling people that all their immigration problems lies on people crossing on a dinghy. So many schemes to stop small boat crossings in the channel have been considered by the UK government in recent years, from the Rwanda policy to wave machines. So here are 4 of them. So the Rwanda scheme. So I'm going to read this and then I'll share my thoughts on Rwanda. In April 2022, the Conservative government set out plans to send tens of thousands of asylum seekers to Rwanda to have their claims processed, with costs including an initial payment of £120 million. The first flight in June, which is believed to have had 7 people on board, was cancelled minutes before takeoff after the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg issued last-minute injunctions to stop it. In November 2023, the Supreme Court ruled that the Rwanda policy was unlawful because there had not been a proper assessment of whether the country was safe. Britain and Rwanda signed a new treaty on asylum and the safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Act 2024, subsequently declared Rwanda a safe country. And one of the first acts of the Labour government was to scrap the scheme. Only 4 volunteer migrants had gone to Rwanda. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, told MPs last July that the scheme had cost £700 million. Yeah, so I would not be surprised if we find out later on, like down the road, that the scheme actually costed even more than that. Like £700 million of taxpayer money was wasted on a scheme that was never going to work. And I don't know how many times people need to say this. Rwanda was never going to work. We've said this so many times. I've said this. Other YouTubers have said this. Centre, left-wing commentators, experts have said this was never going to stop the boats. And all it is acting as a deterrent. And the most dumbest part, the dumbest thing about all of this, right? And this is the thing. This is the dumbest part, right? Is that for all those people who were crossing over, none of them didn't even know about it. None of them was aware of it. And when people went over there with cameras to speak to them and asking them about, aren't you worried about being sent to Rwanda? And they were like, no, I'm not going to Rwanda. I'm going to the UK. And they say, you might get deployed to Rwanda. Well, it's just like, well, what choice do I have? I don't care. So, and that was their position. So it did nothing to do that. And the thing is that if this scheme had been put in place, and it scheme had been put in place, it would have been incredibly unfair on the migrants, because what would have happened is they get sent to Rwanda, and then they have two choices. Either their asylum claim gets accepted and they become Rwandan citizens, or it gets rejected and they get sent back to the country of origin. There was no scenario here where they would get sent to the UK. So it's a breach of their human rights, which is a good thing why the European Convention on Human Rights stopped this. So it was a waste of money, it was a waste of time, it's a dead policy, it's a dead duck, but there are still people out there trying to justify it. And I'm telling you, don't listen to these morons. Yeah, we don't want to be wasting taxpayer money. You know, people talk about money being wasted by governments. Yeah, this is a big chunk of waste of money. So the South Atlantic plans to send people who arrive on small boats to the Ascension Island in the South Atlantic were re-examined in 2023 in the case the Rwanda policy failed. I did cover this in an article at the time as well. The idea was first mooted in 2020 but dropped because it just thought it would be impossibly expensive to do, according to Jacob Rees-Mogg, who was a cabinet minister when the idea first considered. Unfortunately, it would cost at least $1 million per person to send there, he told Times Radio. The 2020 plan was described as implausible by a Home Office source. Asking why it was being considered again in 2023, the Home Office Minister Sarah Dines told Sky News, "Well, time change, the crisis in the channel is urgent. We need to look at all possibilities, and that is what we are doing." If money was not a factor, they would have gone ahead with it. It's pretty deplorable that they would even use the island in doing so. Like, I can just see them taking the ideas of, you know, what America are doing right now, and building giant prison camps on the island and sending them there away to be the island's situation, and it would just cost billions and billions of UK taxpayer money just to send them there, just to get a few people happy, just to make a few right-wingers happy who have no idea anything about immigration whatsoever. Like, it was just, you know, you talk about Rwanda being a waste of money. This would have been far worse. This would have been far worse, racked up in the billions and billions. You know, we're not talking about a couple $100 million, as I said. The Rwanda scheme cost over $100 million as it is. We're talking about billions of pounds would have been wasted here. And they said that it would cost $1 million per person to send there. Like, it's just absolutely insane. Just absolutely insane idea. So a blockage. The then Home Secretary Sajid Javid promised to provide 2 extra border force cutters, bringing a total of 5 to patrol the channel in 2019. The following year, Priti Patel said he intended to use Navy to block boats before they enter British waters. One defence official described the idea as complete potty, and the French government, whose consent would be needed, had already said it would be legal. The Home Office also sent out plans to buy 2 jet skis to help with patrols, the Times reported. Trials took place in 2020 to test a blockage similar to Australia's controversial turn back the boats tactic, according to official documents seen by The Guardian at the time. The document rents trials are currently underway to test a blockage tactic in the channel on the mediation line between French and UK waters, akin to the Australian turn back tactic, whereby migrant boats would be physically prevented, most likely by one or more UK RHIBS's rigid hulled inflatable boats, from entering UK waters. Yeah, so this would have been a complete waste of money and complete waste of time again, to try and basically like knock them back using boats and whatnot. And it's just like this it's incredibly dangerous. You know, you're talking about putting their lives at risk by doing so as well. You have people in the UK who generally think that they're being invaded and that the country's getting overwhelmed, when they honestly have never been outside their towns or homes or outside their Facebook groups, yeah, that they sit on all day. It really is not the case. It really isn't. Saying that they would gladly watch these people die to stop them coming to the UK. Like, that's how cold and that's how heartless they are. This idea, again, like, it's just dangerous. It's reckless. It's not going to stop them once they're on those boats. Again, like I said, safe and legal routes would have been the ideal choice here in this scenario, but we know that that's not what they wanted to do here. So wave machines and floating walls. Amongst blue sky ideas, Home Office officials reportedly considered and dismissed in 2020 was the creation of wave machines in the channel. Boats with pumps would create waves that would force small boats back into French waters, the source told the Financial Times. But the proposed risks tipping migrants out of packed, often unseaworthy dinghies and boats into one of the most dangerous and busy shipping lanes in the world. The UK government also launched a consultation with the maritime industry to explore the construction of floating walls in the channel, according to the Financial Times. An email from the trade body Maritime UK obtained by the Financial Times revealed that the idea of floating barriers was being seriously pursued by the Home Office officials. Maritime UK said at the time it had informed the Home Office that it does not think the proposal was legally possible. So again, we're talking about ideas that are not in the context of within the European Convention on Human Rights here. You're talking about wave machines that would potentially knock boats over, which means we would leave people, again, knock them into the waters, which could potentially end up killing them in the process, having them stranded in the waters, in French waters, which is obviously would have been really, really dire. All it would do is if they get picked up in French waters and sent back and picked up by the French authorities and taken back to France, they would just get in a boat and try again. So again, it's not going to fix, was never going to fix the issue, and at the same time you might actually kill some people in doing so as a result of doing this idea. It's just ridiculous. And then obviously the idea of floating walls, I mean, like it's not, again, like they'll find ways around. They'll sit in their dinghies for days if they have to get round it. It's just, again, another stupid idea, another idea that would have wasted huge amounts of taxpayer money, again, for something that just was not going to be stopped here. So that apparently this is the floating border idea here from migrants crossing from the US and Mexico there. One of the ideas that they were looking at there. Downing Street said it did not recognise some of the more outlandish reporting, including the possibility of a wave machine. These things won't be happening, a spokesperson told The Guardian at the time. The Home Office concluded marine fencing would not work. No. Look, you just, like I said, safe and legal routes is the answer here. Safe and legal routes is the solution here. You want to stop the boats, this is how you do it. Allow people to claim their process properly and allow them to work. Allow them to work, and they can contribute to the economy instead of us wasting taxpayer money on us contributing a budget to them. That would have been the ideal solution in this as well, but they just don't want to do that, and that's the problem. That's why we're in the situation that we are in, and it's just very, very frustrating to say the least here, guys. And just a reminder before we go to the next story, to remind you guys, for those who are watching this, this is not a live stream, it's a premiere video, so I can't see what you guys are saying in the chat if you guys happen to be talking there. But if you can, please hit the like button and share this across social media. Subscribe if you can, be greatly appreciated. Next story I've got for you guys is from Sky News here. So this is the suspended Labour councillor who calls for protesters' throats to be cut at a rally, not guilty of encouraging violent disorder. So Ricky Jones, 58, drew his finger across his throat and called demonstrators disgusting, Nazi fascists, and an anti-racism protest in East London last August following the Southport murders. Now, Max covered this on his live stream on Friday, and I'm going to say I 100% agree with Max. I think he should have been found guilty personally. I think his actions and his comments were completely out of order. I understand. I get the anger. I feel that anger sometimes too, about how I feel about some of these people, some of these demonstrators, and how disgusting, vile they are. However, there are lines to cross, and it's even more bigger lines to cross, especially when you are an elected official, whether you're an elected councillor, whether you're an elected politician, an MP. Like you have a responsibility here. You know, people look at you. You know, you are in the public limelight, and when cameras are on you, you know, they can speak quite a lot of volumes about you. So it's one thing that if an ordinary member of the public is saying it. It's another thing if it's a Labour councillor, it's a councillor here, and also a Labour councillor here. And for all the reform people who are calling this hypocritical or two-tier and whatnot, well, one thing Ricky Jones, one thing that he didn't do here is that he didn't call, unlike Lucy Connolly, was calling for the murder of burning, setting a hotel on fire, literally advocating the murder and burning of asylum seekers in a hotel. And that's the stark difference there. So when people say that it's two-tier, it's not two-tiered. I do think, yeah, that lines were crossed there as well. So, but yeah, I think Ricky Jones should have been found guilty personally. So, suspended Labour councillor who has said far-right protesters should have had their throats slit has been found not guilty of encouraging violent disorder. So Ricky Jones, 58, drew his finger across his throat and called demonstrators disgusting, Nazi, fascist and anti-racist in protest in East London last August following the Southport murders. Jones, a borough councillor at Dartford, Kent from 2019, said he felt it was his duty to attend the protest in Walthamstow despite being warned by his party to stay away. He was suspended the day after the incident. So he was even told by the party, do not go to the event, and he still went. Jones of Dartford, who denied one count of encouraging violence disorder, told police he was sorry he made the comments in the heat of the moment, and he had not intended for them to be taken literally, the court had told earlier. Okay, I get, like, again, I understand that it didn't want to take it heatedly because it was the heat of the moment. Again, I would have understand that from a human's perspective, because again, I understand that feeling. But again, because you are a councillor, because you are representing Labour, your words and actions have consequences, which is why I feel he should have been guilty. On Friday, jurors found Jones not guilty after just an hour of deliberation. The suspended councillor was seen mouthing thank you to the jurors after the verdict was handed down. Former Home Secretary and Tory leadership candidate James Cleverly called the jury verdict clearly Jones's perversive writing on X, describing decisions like this are adding to the anger that people feel and amplify the belief that there isn't a dispassionate criminal justice system. Nigel Farage said the verdict was another outrageous example of two-tier justice. His statement was echoed by former Reform Chairman Zahra Youssef, who said that the two-tier justice in this country is out of control, as Jones was clear while Lucy Connery gets 31 months in jail. Like I said, Lucy Connery advocated for the murder of innocent people. He didn't call for that. Connolly pleaded guilty, and she also pleaded guilty as well, meaning she did not face trial last year to a charge of initial racial hatred by publishing, distributing, threatening or abusing written material on X during the Southport riots. A video Jones speaking to cheering protesters went viral on social media after the demonstration, which had been organised in response to plans for a far-right march outside nearby Waltham Forest Immigration Bureau. Jurors at Shalesbrook Crown Court were told it follows a nationwide violent disorder that occurred last summer after the Southport murders, while Axel Rukabia killed 3 girls and attempted to murder 8 others at a summer holiday Taylor Swift theme event. Jones, who was also employed as a full-time official for the Transport Salary Staff Association (TSSA) union at the time, was arrested a day after the protest and was questioned by police in Brixton. Jones said during his trial that his comments about cutting throats did not refer to far-right protesters involved in the riots at the time, but to people who had reportedly left National Front stickers on a train with razor blades hidden behind them. Before he made the comments, footage shows Jones telling the crowd, "You got women and children using these trains during the summer holidays. They don't give a crap about who they hurt." Prosecutor Ben Holt said that during the trial that Jones used inflammatory, rabbit-rousing language in the throat of a crowd that we'll here describe as a tinder box. He told the court that Jones gave his speech, which was amplified through a microphone and speaker, in a setting where violence could really have been anticipated. Jones, who says he was on the left of the Labour Party, told jurors that he was appalled by political violence, adding that the rioters left him feeling upset and angry. "I've always believed that the best way to make people realise who you are and what you do is to do it peacefully," he said. Well, again, you let your language get the better of you. I mean, my personal opinion is that I don't know if he's going to have the Labour whip restored. I don't know if he's going to still be a Labour councillor. So I can't say Labour quit because he's not an MP, but I think they should remove him. I think because, like, if he does it once, what's to say he can't do it again? Like, if I was in his shoes, I would understand the frustration, but you also need to understand your position as well. And also the fact, you have to add into the fact that he was told by Labour not to go as well, and he still went as well. So this is another factor people forget about when talking about these things. So and obviously him being found not guilty is not better. It's not helped the situation either. And once again, calls for people calling it two-tier system. There's been some people calling for jurors to be removed from as well, which is very, very dangerous in my opinion. That really does undermine this democracy that we have here in the UK if that was to happen as well. So the next story I want to go for you is a very interesting one here from the Times. So higher fees for wider burial plots are like a fat tax. So a council is accused of discriminating against obese people and causing distress for bereaved families by charging 20% more for bigger graves. Now, obviously, this is the only place I've seen this story from the Times. So do take this with a pinch of salt. Now, I'm just going to say that if this is true, this is ridiculous. This is outrageous. This is stupid, because you're just as literally as it says there, they're discriminating, making a bigger plot of land for somebody just because the person is fat. Is essentially what they are. Is what the article is literally implying here. It sounds stupid to me. I don't understand this. Like, if you're trying to get more money from graveyards and whatnot, just charge everyone the same. Like, just charge everyone the same here. Is my position on this. It just seems a bit of an odd story, that is for sure. But let's read into it as we go along, guys. So, the council has been accused of levelling a fat tax after it introduced higher charges for wider burial plots at one of its ceremonies. Grieving families burying their loved ones at Dale's Court ceremony in Tennerhall, Wolverhampton will have to pay $2,700 if they need to buy a 6-foot wide plot, a 20% increase on the cost of the standard 5-foot grave. The decision was made by councils in May to dedicate a new section of the ceremony for larger coffins. A spokesperson for Wolverhampton City Council said it was implementing the additional charge after an increase in demand for larger graves. The city had an obesity rate of 33.3% in 2021, the latest data available compared with a national average of 25.9% in the same year. The move has been condemned by funeral directors in the West Midlands City. Essentially, it's a fat tax. Roch Hitchkin, a fourth-generation funeral director who ran 7 branches of his family firm, Hitchkin Family Funeral Director, said, "It is essentially a death fat tax, if the story is true. Families are already going through enough when they're bereaved. People have to pay into the system their whole lives and pay local council tax. And now they're being slapped with another tax at the point of death just due to their size." Look, again, like I have to say, like I am taking this all with a pinch of salt. But again, if this is true, this is stupid. Like, if there's somebody, like, just based on the size of that person, I'm sorry, but suck it up is my message to the council here. Hickson acknowledged that grave space was limited, but said that the council had a duty of care to local residents to ensure burial space is provided, while catering to religions and cultures that practices burial. He said the decision to open a dedicated area at Dale's Court ceremony for larger people added another concern for families who may not be able to have their loved ones buried together if they need both 5-foot and 7-foot graves. This is this is actually pretty disgusting. If there is a possibility that they say that that loved ones cannot be buried next to each other simply based on somebody being more fatter than the other, I hope not. They better not be saying that, because you really will piss off a lot more people. It's truly shocking. There is no empathy, no care, Hitzkin added. The council doesn't understand the process and the emotional toll it takes on families. The National Society of Alliance and Independent Funeral Directors, the SAIF, said that in a survey of members that only a quarter of 165 respondents agreed that councils should charge more for wider plots. Only a quarter of 165 have called for wider plots, according to a survey. Terry Tennant, chief executive of the SAIF, said, "We're extremely concerned about Wolverhampton's council plans. The discriminatory nature of the fat tax is bad enough. What's really worrying is the idea of creating a separate area for obese people in Dale's Court ceremony. This could cause serious distress to bereaved people who are planning for family members to rest in peace together." Tannins has said Wolverhampton Council should rethink the ill-thought-through plan and urge other local authorities contemplating similar moves to think carefully about the upset they are likely to cause. The British Obesity Society, which supports and advocates for those who are obese, said the plan stigmatised those who are already disadvantaged. The charity's president, James DeVille Armand, told the BBC, "The idea now that we are going to have what we can only describe as a fat tax on people when they die is terrible because they're already anxious. People are already struggling with their weight and are already anxious most of their lives, and to think about their relatives going to pay more to bury them is appalling. The council said other local authorities, including Birmingham and Walsall, also charge higher fees for larger burial plots. If they do, it needs to be scrapped, because if it's true, it's pure discrimination. I'm sorry, it's just pure discrimination. There's no two ways about it. You're discriminating someone based on the size of their body. Sorry, it's discrimination, pure and simple. And cost for graves in Wolverhampton was similar or cheaper than neighbouring areas. Similar schemes are also in place across the country, including Coventry and Northamptonshire. This needs to be scrapped. There needs to be a law that scraps this, that stops, bans councils from doing this. An MP needs to bring in a bill to stop councils doing this, to ban this, because this is pure discrimination. There's no, I don't care what people say in the chat. This is pure discrimination, simply based on the size of a person's body. Okay, not everyone, who ends up getting fat can lose that weight. Everyone's story is different, and people should not be discriminated and being forced to pay more just because their weight is just because they're a little bit fatter when they've passed away. Quote, we strongly refute the situation that we are doing this as a cash generator for the council. A spokesperson for Wolverhampton Council said, yes, you are, because why else would you be doing this? We are doing it because there is a need for it, and the increased costs for these larger plots reflect the increased costs occurred in providing them, including disposing the additional soil. The spokesperson added that the council had contacted 25 funeral directors in the city to ask for their thoughts before approving the plans. It said 10 firms have responded with only one objection. The National Association of Funeral Directors warned this year that the average coffin width has increased in the past decade from between 18 to 20 inches to between 20 and 24 inches. Look, I want to make this very, very clear. I understand that we have an obesity problem. I understand we have an obesity crisis. I accept that. But if this is true, what's coming out of the Times here is that we are charging people simply based on a beloved one of ours charging more than the average person just because they're a little bit fatter. It's just pure discrimination. Regardless of whether you're doing it for money or whether you're doing it because you need more land. It's pure discrimination. End of discussion. There's no two ways about this. I'm sorry if you're concerned about land. Make more bloody land if you need to do so. Tough luck. It's not right in any way, shape or form. It is literally a tax on the fattest people. That's what it is. After they've already passed away. I'm sorry, it's just bloody stupid. And anyone who thinks this is a good thing, I'm sorry, you're being discriminate here. You're discriminating against other people. Anyone who agrees with this, I'm sorry, you're discriminating here. In fact, you're probably on borderline racism here, because you have a problem with people who are a bit overweight here, and you think it's okay to charge them. And that's not. It's not right. My position has always been is that to treat everyone the same. And people here are not being treated the same here simply because of the size of that person. It's not right, it's wrong. And everyone who is doing this is wrong to do so. And we need this challenge by MPs. We need some kind of law that stops them doing this as well. It's just not fair. It's as simple as that. I really hope this is not true. I really hope not, because it makes me sick to my stomach. It really, really does. So just a reminder, guys, before we go to the last video, article here, a reminder that this is not a live stream. This is a premiere video, so I can't see you live what you guys are saying in the comments. If you guys are here live watching this on a premiere video, just for reference here, I just want to make that clear. But you can leave your comments after the premiere video drops, and leave your thoughts down below there. So this last one I've got for you guys is from Open Democracy. The UK's finance lobby's growing influence is threatening all of our interests. The government is overlooking the lessons of history and the finance sector tendencies to cause harm. Now, obviously, this is true. We do feel that Labour are certainly not the party that they're nowhere near the same party I feel they was 14 years ago when the Conservatives took over back in 2010. They're certainly a hell of a lot different than them. I do feel that they are being influenced by businesses and whatnot. And I think when you think about what's happened since 2016, especially with Brexit, and you think about what we went through during what we went through and what businesses have gone through since then and still are going through, and how the financial sector has had to cope with it all, it's just not been good for the UK at all. And that they've been sinking their claws into politicians in order to shore up their own interests here, and it doesn't surprise me one bit. So this is an opinion piece by Mick Matilla here, so let's read into this, you guys. So the UK's financial lobbyists hold a more powerful role in developing our financial policy now than any other time in my 30 years as a financial campaigner. The Labour government is continuing the work of the Conservative predecessors in promoting the financial sector's interest on the unsustainable assumption that doing so will support national economic growth. Even the watchdog charged with regulating the industry has been legally mandated to promote its growth and competitiveness in what was intended as a secondary growth objective that has become a de facto primary one, given equal status with other priorities and threatening to compromise the regulator's independence. At the same time, civil society actors like myself, who are fighting to advance the financial interests of the general public, have never held less sway than the ministers. All of this had real-world consequences for economy and society, risking undoing much of the work that's been done to our financial system safer and fairer for consumers since the 2008 financial crisis and notorious systematic mis-selling crisis of the 2000s. Financial lobbies' undue influence in Whitehall can be seen in their dominance of the parliamentary working group that inform government and regulatory policies, as the financial inclusion of the market centre removed earlier this year. We analysed the makeup of 6 key working groups that advise ministers on issues such as the role of AI in finance, financing critical public infrastructure, the National Wealth Fund's role in providing corporate welfare to private finances, and financial consumer protections. Our findings were staggering. These groups have a total of 130 members, and just 10 of these, 1 in every 13, are dedicated civil society consumer representatives. And there are also 3 academics if you discount the Financial Inclusion Committee, which has 6 civil society consumer representatives. Just 4 of the remaining 116 working groups are members from civil society. For full transparency, I am one of those 4 as members of the Central Bank Digital Currency Engagement Forum, which is tasked with understanding the challenges of introducing an electronic version of the pound. In contrast, the financial sector boasts over 100 to 130 representatives across the working groups and task force. It also has far more meetings with Treasury ministers and civil society groups, and submits far more responses to government and regulatory consultations. This disparity in influence is perhaps not surprising. The industry has significant and disproportionate financial and technical reasons for lobbying and producing reports to support its arguments. 18 financial trade associations in the UK have a combined annual turnover of £145 million, according to a 2022 report by Positive Money, a not-for-profit campaigning to reform our economic system. We don't have the exact figures for the resources available to financial campaigners, but safe to say it's much less than this. Positive Money report also found disquieting links between the finance sector and politicians. Open Democracy's own work has done much to expose these connections, most recently revealing how Keir Starmer's top business aide, Vordon Chancha, set up a meeting between finance executives and a Tory minister in his previous role at Huckachu, a strategic global consultancy firm. What happens behind the scenes in Westminster's meeting rooms is important, as this is where finance lobby do much of the work. The dangerous imbalance in representation and access to power risks poor policy making flying under the radar, particularly as civil society campaigns on complex financial issues don't get much traction with the media and the public. Real progress was made in protecting consumers and cleaning up the industry after the 2008 crash and the mis-selling scandals, the most prominent of which involved banks and other financial institutions mis-selling costly and opaque payment protections insurance to millions of customers who either weren't eligible to make claims or didn't properly consent to them. But that work was unfinished. The retail finance industry mistreats, extracts value from, or excludes millions of consumers, while the intersection of finance and AI tech presents new opportunities to export consumers. Risk has also been shifted to the poorly regulated shadow banking sector, made up of insurers, investment funds and private markets, and the city still finances activities that damage the environment. There should be no time to ease up on making markets work for society. There are long reverse programs made, but memories of the Nautilus seems to have faded, and recent years have seen financial consumer protection and rights to redress weakening with a range of deregulatory measures, such as scrapping the cap on bankers' bonuses and reducing the amount of compensation that can be paid to victims of authorised push payment fraud. The security of people's pensions, especially those managed by insurers, is also still being undermined. Yeah. The scrapping of the bankers' bonus, that was one of the most infuriating things. And Labour never undid that. Worse may be to come if the government goes ahead with plans to weaken key financial stability measures, such as ring-fencing regimes, which aims to prevent banks from using UK consumer deposits to finance investment and activities. Even limited progress on aligning finance with environmental interests is in jeopardy. The economy and society are increasingly financialised, with private finance given opportunities to extract high returns from financing core physical, green and social infrastructure. The finance lobbies have also persuaded policymakers to provide corporate welfare in the form of de-risking, deregulation and incentives to encourage powerful and wealthy cities and overseas financial institutions to provide the financing. It's a classic case of socialising the risk, prioritising the reward, or to put it another way, heads they win, tails we lose. The government and the regulators are trying to get, some would say, coerce pension funds to invest more in private assets and private equity, claiming that this will increase the investment returns earned by pension funds. Naturally, financial institutions are happy at the prospect and likely lobby for it, as these poorly regulated, risky private assets with questionable returns, and will allow them to levy higher fees on pension schemes than conventional assets such as listed company shares, governments and corporate bonds. And that ministers and regulators are promoting the growth of finance as a good thing is a cause for concern. The government should heed the lessons from their history about the economic damage that can be caused when finances get too big. And rather than achieving the government's stated aim of promoting a fairer, more equitable and inclusive economy, encouraging greater financialisation, and is likely to exacerbate inequality. And we all know about inequality right now. Focusing on the growth of the city would widen both the income gap and the wealth gap, as those with assets see their value increase and money shift towards the capital away from labour. Firms investing in critical infrastructure will likely expect ordinary households to pay for their returns through higher bills that service costs. This is a vicious cycle, increasing the chances of financial crisis as the economy becomes reliant on debt-fueled consumption and growth. We're at the same critical juncture at the development of the financial regulatory policy, and sadly, ministers and regulators seem to have forgotten the financial sector's embedded tendency to cause harm. Progress is already being reversed, and civil society will have a battle on its hands to prevent the worst from coming down the line. And this was written, opinion piece was by Mick McKenna, who is the co-director of the Financial Institution and Market Centre and a former Financial Conduct Authority board member. I definitely agree that there is a keen deregulation here. And it why is it always the wealthiest and the most powerful that always have the influence? Yeah. Once again, we are being ignored, the ordinary people. It's always about... And I think these people also see Gary Stevenson as a threat to them as well, because he's one that wants to put the power back into our hands as well. These are dangerous people. These are people who want to keep the money, keep the wealth, and also keep things in a way that benefits them and not, of course, caring about us. And here's the thing: they're born and they're raised in such a way that they not to care about us, but to shore up their way of life and their influence. And that influence is growing, and it needs to be countered. I've always said, and I'm sure you guys have said too, as long as politicians are able to be bought and you take free gifts and be given donations by people and lobbying groups, they will always be influenced and not be put in the priorities of the people, but those who put money in their pockets and give them gifts and whatnot. It's too easy to get influenced as politicians. It needs to be scrapped. The system needs to be changed. And until it does, we're going to continuously having this issue. But it's very scary to see that the financial lobby doing what it's doing, knowing that we could potentially have another 2008 financial crash again. To say it won't happen again is folly. It can happen in the future, and we should be ready. We should be concerned about that deeply, all of us. So guys, just before I head out here, I have one last video to see ourselves out here from this video. I hope you guys like this. Some of you may have seen this video already. I'm really looking forward to this one here. This is from Larry and Paul from Broken News. Apparently the UK terror threat level has been raised. Has it indeed? Oh dear. Well, let's have a look. Listen in, guys.
Welcome to Broken News. The UK terror threat level has been raised, but it's not Islamic or far-right terror that's driving the change. The Metropolitan Police says the greatest current threat to public safety comes from pensioners, and our reporter has more.
Years ago, if you'd have whispered the word pensioner to anyone under the age of 70, you'd have gotten a warm smile as they fondly remembered the smell of boiled cabbage, mothballs, and the vacant-eyed dribbling farts of old Nana Betty. But today, if you were to shout the word pensioner in a public place, you'd be likely to create a wild, screaming panic, and many would duck for cover behind bollards. Now, the Joint Terrorism Analysis Committee has raised the threat level from substantial to Werther's Original, its highest level in decades. Armed with nothing but a thermos, a tartan shopping cart, and the sheer will to queue indefinitely, rogue OAP thugs have been holding up these. Thankfully, this one has been disarmed, but the ones just behind me here on Parliament Square recently were very much not. And amid the searing paper white glare, brave police officers arrested hundreds of members of the Cardigan Cartel on terrorism charges. They detained more people, in fact, than they did in the aftermath of the 7/7 bombings, underlining the incredibly serious nature of these crimes. For weeks now, marauding codgers have waged a campaign of terror, striking fear into the very heart of British public by viciously sitting down on some grass, instilling sheer bone-chilling dread by gently singing, some of them slightly out of tune, and paralysing city streets with horror by shuffling slowly with walking sticks just behind me here. Police later told me that these sticks could at any point have been turned against innocent children and babies, smashing their fragile heads in like little birdie eggs. Thankfully, before things turned deadly, the Met Police had the clever idea to divert brave police officers away from less serious incidents like big burglaries, knife stabbings and rape, and brought them here to Parliament Square to arrest hundreds of these bus-pass bastards. Back to you.
Thank you. What a lovely story. Well, just some breaking news coming into us, and we are learning the sad news that freedom of expression has died at the age of 27. Born in 1998 as Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, freedom of expression had been severely ill for the past few years. We'll bring you more on that later if we're allowed to. Freedom of expression, who died today. What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
Rest in peace, freedom of expression. Rest in peace. That was wonderful from Larry and Paul. Guys, make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel, Larry and Paul. Make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment as well. Do check out their fabulous work, and if they're ever somewhere in your area, make sure you go and support them as well. Indeed, guys. So I want to say first, thank you if you've watched from start to finish. I really do appreciate it. Please leave your comments down below what you guys thought of this premiere video. Obviously, I'm sorry this is a live stream, but obviously I'm away this week for most of this week. But there will be a live stream back next week, a proper one at 8 PM UK time. So thank you very much for watching. But before you go, if you can, please hit the like button, we greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. Please consider subscribing to the channel to help support the work that I do. Do check out Rumble and Patreon. There's exclusive content on those platforms, which will be dropping throughout the week as well. You will have there'll be content from the United States on Patreon if you want to see stories there. There will be content coming from the Middle East and 1 or 2 from Africa on Rumble. You can check out the content from there. Links are down below. You could also join our Discord community, which is free to join as well. And if you want to financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.